So this video is about the rubric database, and it's going to go into some detail about the rubric database and give you some overall information just in case there are some holes of your understanding. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is tell you what the rubric database is for. The rubric database is so that you can know what's required for your final project. And in it, now of course I will show you this as well, but in it are a list of all the requirements for both the draft versions of your final project as well as the completed version of your final project. So what you will do is you will, for your draft versions, write down how well you're doing at a particular requirement, and then I'll give you feedback. Maybe you'll say 5 and I'll say 10, or you'll say 10 and I'll say 5, but in either case, there's a box there where you can give more explanation. And then for your completed version, you'll go back and you'll say what you've improved on, or how, if you have improved on it. For those, there are some requirements that you only have to do for your completed version, but then there are the ones that you have to do for both your completed version and your draft version. Then you'll have responses in there from your draft version that you'll need to update. So again, you'll not have to update all of the requirements, because some of the requirements are only in effect for the completed version. But the draft versions, you will have to put in how well you're doing for a requirement for your draft version and your completed version. Okay, so I will explain this more in detail, except for I do want to say one thing, and that is that you'll have 3 draft versions and then a completed version. The first draft version is your tables, the second draft version is for your forms, and the third is for your reports. Then the completed, you'll need to update all 3 of those areas, the tables, the forms, and reports, and then you'll also do other areas such as the essay that you'll need to write, and some other features I can't think of off the top of my head, but you'll see it when we pull down and look at the rubric database itself. So that's my introduction. So now what I want to do from here is I want to show you where to find it, the rubric database, for your first time use. So you're going to come up here to course materials, and you're going to click on content. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down here, and you're going to come to rubric database right here. Okay. And now you'll think that nothing's appearing because the screen is blank, but if you scroll up, you'll see here is the rubric database. And so you can just click here and then click on download, and it will begin the download process. Now, this is a large file, so it'll take a bit of time, and I'm not going to run the video the whole time. But I will tell you that the database will download into your downloads folder. And usually your downloads folder is on your C drive. So I want you to make sure that you can find that downloads folder. And you'll notice here it says RubricDatabaseFY19.accdb.cr download. I don't know what the CR stands for, but anyway, it's indicating that it is downloading. So I'll wait. And then I just double clicked to open this right here, and you'll get a stop all macros to help protect you against viruses. This is something that is in Microsoft, all of Microsoft's products, and doesn't have anything to do with my particular database. Okay, so next we're going to want to click on Stop All Macros, and then we're going to click on the X to close this form. And then in the background, we will see that there is a yellow bar here with a button that says Enable Content. You want to click on that. Okay, so now what you're seeing is the tutorial. The tutorial has come right up, and so you can go through the tutorial and learn about the rubric database, and many of you already have gone through this tutorial, and I'm not going to go through it a second time for you. I am going to, however, point out that when you don't want the tutorial to display anymore, then you can click here, and then when you open your rubric database, it will not show the tutorial anymore. Okay. The other thing that I want to remind you is to make sure that you click here on student information and put in your information here. Okay, so I'll put my, and then make sure that you put in a phone number. And the reason that you want to put in a phone number is because what if I have to contact you, especially at the end of the semester? If I don't have a phone number for you and you've got a problem, like you've handed in an .accdb version of your final project instead of a .accdb version of your project, I may have to give you an F for the project, which could cause you to get a very low grade in your class, If I have a phone number to call, then I can actually get a hold of you and communicate with you whatever the problem is. And if you are in my online class, please make sure that you put in a description, a few sentences about your database. That's also helpful. Okay, so I'll click on OK, and I filled that out. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to exit this tutorial. Okay, and I'll drag this over in the middle. Okay, so here is the main menu, and so I want to just pause for a moment to give you the ability to look at it. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And so on the bottom here, if you wanted to go back to the tutorial, you could. Here is just an overall project description that you can read. I think you probably are already on the road to understanding what the final project is. So you may not want to read that. Here on the bottom, you can get a list of all the rubrics for all the different sections, or you can get a list of all of them. If you want all of them, you can click on Overall and then click on Preview. And what do you know? There is a list of all of the different rubric requirements. Okay. Now, the video doesn't always update really quickly, but if you pause for a moment, it'll show all of the text for it. So anyway, to go ahead and get out of here, you can scroll up to the top and notice here you can print, you can close, or you can do a PDF format of this report. I'm going to go ahead and click on close, and if you wanted to get it for just one area like table structure, you can do that as well. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on close, and it'll take me back to the main menu. Okay, so that's all rubrics report. At the end of the semester, you'll want to click on grade report. We've already typed in the student information, so we don't need to worry about that. The grade report will only show for when you're doing your final project, you completed. It'll give a overall of everything, all the grades, and then give you a total percentage at the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to move forward and explain all of these different areas. Okay, so here's instructor overall feedback. Okay, and in here, each time that you hand in a draft, I may enter some overall information, just even encouragement to keep going because it's a lot of work. So, and so I could have it in here where maybe I'm going to make an overall comment about your table structure, or I could make an overall comment about your table relationships, etc. Whatever it is, I can put in here a comment, and then you could go to the next record if there was a next record. So when you're further down the line, let's say you're at reports, then you may want to advance to the last record. Right now there are no records in here, so if I click, it says can't go to the specified record because there are no records in here. So that's why. Okay, so we'll click on close. And from here, I just want to show you, since this video is for those people that are just learning how to use a rubric database, I'll show you about the first part of the tables draft. You'll need to do the table structure and the table relationship. So I'm going to go click on table structure. This is a reminder here that says make sure that in the commons field you're very clear so that I can find what I'm looking for and I don't have to go searching throughout your entire database to find that you've met a certain specification. So make sure that you're very clear about where to find things. Okay, so that's what this is in here for. Okay, so in here you're going to see that there are there's a category ID, so it's a category, and then it's going to say what the requirement is. So here it says data types must make sense. For example, it makes sense to assign a number data type to a field which will perform calculations. Assigning short text to a field on which you perform calculations does not make sense, and that's all that I'm saying there. And so then down here, and then notice when are you supposed to have or meet this requirement? And it says in the table drafts version and the completed version. So both times when you hand in your database, you'll need to have met that requirement. Okay, so down here, you're going to respond to this particular requirement. How well do you think you've met it? Have you met it completely? And then I'll go ahead and I'll give you a rating. And I'm going to guess most people will get this pretty easily. But if you don't understand, you can give yourself a 5 or you give yourself a 10. It doesn't matter, whatever you think. And then you can write an explanation down here of what you want to communicate about that. And I can write a comment back, okay, to you. And then from there, you want to go to the next record. And again, you're going to read what it says, test your table. You should try entering 1 or 2 records. Okay, so you just want to test your record, test your table to make sure that it's actually accepting data as it should. And you can give yourself a rating on that. Maybe it's 10. And then I'll test it maybe, and I'll give you a 7, and I'll make comments on it. So if there's something that you're lost about, you can make comments in here, and I can write comments back. Okay, and then we just go to the next record. It says you should have at least 3 main tables. Okay, and again, you would respond down here, put your comments in. When I get this database, then I'll make my comments. Okay, and you can just go all the way through. Now this particular rubric point does not show all the way, and so what you can do is click in it, hold the shift key down and press F2, and then you'll see a box, and then it'll allow you to see the whole thing. Okay, so just a comment, just a note there. And so anyway, you can go to next record and next record and next record all the way to the last one. And I'm not sure how many there are here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 different points within this category that you need to respond to. And so you'll have need to, at least on the draft, try to make an attempt at meeting those requirements. And of course, if you're lost and you don't understand, then certainly make a note of it and move on, and I'll try to help you. That's what the draft is for. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and close here. And then for the tables version, you'll also need to do the table relationships section. And once again, this is reminding you to make sure that you leave me with detailed comments down here, instructing me where to find what I need to find in order to show that in fact you have done whatever it is that you're claiming to have done, whatever the rubric point says you need to do. Okay, so here again, you must have at least one to many relationships. The 2 tables involved must be main tables. Okay, so you must have one to many relationships. Okay, and so down here it says that you need to meet this requirement both in the table draft and the completed version. And then here it says that the version that draft, this will be a draft record, and so you'll enter the information here, and then you'll put in your any comments you want, and then I'll come in and put in the comments and the rating that I have. And so again, you just go through it and read everything. Okay. And the other thing that I want to say is that when you're doing your completed version of your final project, then you're going to want to, you'll already have a draft version of your final project. When you go to do your completed version of your final project, you can do one of two things. You can add a final record here. Okay, you can come down here and just add in. Maybe by then you'll have done everything that you needed to do, and you can just come down, and then you can scroll down, and if the scroll doesn't work, you can always use the arrow keys. Okay, and that should get you there. And then you can make a, whoops, okay, and then you can make a comment here. This is a comment. Okay, and then later on I'll come in and give you a final grade, whatever it is, and that's what will be your final grade for that particular rubric point. And that will add to your final grade for your project, and then your grade overall for the class. So there is a second way that you can enter your final records, and so then instead you can get rid of this record, this final record, and then you would come up here and you can change this to a final record and then just update whatever you think you've done. If you've really completed what you needed to complete, and then say, you know, any details that you need to say, and then you can go on to the next record, and I'll update my instructor rating, whatever it is. Okay. Just make sure that you wipe out your old comments and update your student rating, your version. Yeah. And so anyway, again, there are all these rubric points that you'll need to meet. Okay. And so you'll have a forms version and a reports version. And then for your final, or your completed version of your final project, there are rubric points in each one of these. I'm pretty sure they're in every single one of these that you only have to do for the completed version. And then on top of that, there are rubric points in the essay section, okay? And there are rubric points in the user interface section, okay? And the essay section and the user interface section, along with some of the rubric points in here, are only required for the completed section, and that's it, okay? The other thing that I want to emphasize is that you will need to hand in your rubric database every version. Okay, so what happens is that you download this database, you do your final project, like the tables version, and then you hand in your tables draft and also update this rubric database and hand it in with it. Then I will download it and I will use it to make my comments. I'll put them back into the feedback in D2L, and you can open it up and look at my feedback. And then when you go to hand in your next version, which would be your forms, you will take what was in the feedback and you'll update your rubric database responding to the rubric points in the forms. Okay, and then from there you'll submit your forms draft along with this rubric database that you've completed and put it in the the folder, assignment folder. And I will open it up, make my comments, put it back in the feedback. You'll be able to pick it up and get feedback, etc. all the way through to the completed version. Okay? That's an important point. I'm sorry this video is so long, but anyway, hopefully it's helped. Don't forget, you can post questions. Thanks.